listening to the Abolitionists Roundtable, patriotic Black American conservative all-access radio, with your hosts, Del, Phil, and Janice. They're leading the charge in advancing the conservative revolution. Join the conversation at 734-822-1600.
Good morning. Thank you for staying with us, or thank you for joining us if you're just getting up. This is Janice Daniels. I am one of the regular co-hosts on Art of Michigan. My two fearless friends, Del Marsh and Phil Stargell, are both under the weather today, so I almost had to be here by myself, but I was able to find my lady from the Roundtable, Alison Lorkowski, who is the president and founder of votebiblically.org. I'm so glad to have her join us. .com. Votebiblically.com. Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Well, before the break, I was talking about a statement made by General Sun Tzu, and he said that if you don't know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you will suffer defeat in every battle. So one of the great causes that we have to focus on is understanding ourselves, understanding our constitutional government, understanding the principles of limited government, low taxes, fiscal responsibility, Judeo-Christian principles. And we have on our hotline this morning a gentleman who has long led the battle for these conservative constitutional principles, named Norm Hughes, the president of Michigan Conservative Union. Good morning, Norm.
Good morning, Norm.
Good morning, Janice.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, and Allison, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. It's so good to be with you this morning.
You know,
Great.
The interesting thing is both of you suffered a power loss last night from opposite ends of Michigan.
Yes.
Did you get your power back, Allison?
Yes.
Okay, and Norm, you did too as well.
Well, I always had my personal power on, my God power on. I just didn't have light.
Yeah, there you go.
Good.
Well, in fact, the both of you have a high storage of God power. I'm sure of it. I love both of you very much. Norm, I wanted to have you on this morning so you could have an opportunity to talk a little bit about this exciting Michigan CPAC event, the conference that's going to take place next weekend in Holt, Michigan. Please give us an overview, what you're going to be doing there.
We have found a very interesting phenomenon. We believe there's a new revival passing across America. I was on two conference calls back-to-back a couple weeks ago from national movements that are people like Franklin Graham, who's coming in October, and Dr. Mark Belials that we're bringing into MiCPAC. He's an evangelist from Virginia that's got a company called, it's called America Transformation Company. It's not really a company, it's a movement. And they identify Christian leaders, lay people, pastors, and so on, and they train them up, they vet them, they prepare them for the battle we're in. You know, Janice, 70% of Christians stay home on Election Day and allow non-Christians and anti-Christians to decide who will vote for us. If only 10% more participated, we'd have a majority. So with this new revival coming, we want to jump on that. We want to help it along. We've invited people of faith. We've invited youth. In particular, we've never really invited youth to the previous CPAC. We're hoping for a whole bunch of 13 to 22-year-olds and have special programs for them.
Good.
We also are going to launch two major task forces at this session. It'll be Phase 4, the Education Task Force, and the new task force on property rights. It's just amazing how property rights are being eroded. A couple weeks ago, the Michigan Department of Agriculture passed a revision in the Right to Farm Act. Not an act, it's actually a regulation, not something legislature passed, but taking away the right of small family farms in many cases. And it's just a trend of what's going on in Ann Arbor, the historical district telling people they have to take down their fences and so on. It's to the point where when people get on a planning commission, they want to tell everybody else how to act and how to use their property.
Yeah, right. I know you're having Tom DeWeese come in, and he was here in town a couple of weeks ago. He gives a very powerful presentation on the Agenda 21, which is now called Agenda 2030, I think it is. They always change the names when they start being discovered for what they are. And that sustainable development concept is so opposite of what our rule of law, our individual property rights represents.
Radical environmentalists see humans as the problem. They want to turn the earth back to flora and fauna without recognizing that humans are one of the other, and so they want to stack us all in cities like they do in China and like they do in Russia, and leave as much blank space as they can, and so they try to restrict your ability to develop and grow and use your property the way you want. And we're finding a lot of the planning commissions are being advised by a limited number of consultants who buy into this program and are asking people to vote in regulations on the local level and write tickets and so on to people to stop them from using their property the way they want. So it's really a very, very dangerous trend. I was chairman of my county planning commission, went to a statewide conference where one of these planners told everybody that the property all belongs to the government. It's on loan to the people. They rent it through their property taxes. But since it's our property, we got a right to control it. And so it's kind of a one world socialist type of attitude that the small amount of people on top control and own everything, and they can tell us how to use it. And there are techniques to defeat this, turn it around, regain some of our rights, and we're going to learn that. Tom will certainly lead that, but there will be a continuing task force working on that. So if you have listeners who are involved in planning commissions or planning issues that they want to have heard and understood, that's something the task force will be doing. But really exciting also is what's going to happen on the education task force. We've had three phases previously, Janice and Alison, and the first one looked at legislation from a narrow standpoint. We're in a real crisis. We're spending almost $14,000 a student when you add in the federal, state, and local spending on schools. We have 118 non-teachers for every 100 teachers. It's loaded into all kinds of bureaucracy, and quality is not getting into the classroom. Well, we're spending so much money on kids, the enrollment's going down, but yet the state legislature has increased the budget by about $250 million a year each of the last 5 years. And so, with 6, 8, 10, 12,000 students less a year, they keep blowing up the budget, $250 million. It's not getting into the classroom, but the budget keeps going up. Class sizes go down. The quality is absolutely flatlined.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense at all. I don't know if you had an opportunity to listen to the first half hour of the program. We had Deb DeBacker on talking about Gary Glenn's proposed legislation to repeal and replace Common Core. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you yourself, Norm, have talked to Gary Glenn about this, but he's having a press conference in Lansing this Wednesday, the 24th at noon, to bring out that legislation that he wants to have enacted. And
that will definitely help. We also are working with Senator Patrick Kolbick from your listeners' way on 14 bills that he's working on. We cannot, for example, charter or certify teachers from a classical background, a classical academy basis. And we finally had our first classical academy chartered out in the Whitmore Lake area. But there's all kinds of strings attached. They want it to all be online. They don't want it in class teaching environment for kids to learn the classical ways, to learn the 3 R's the way we did. It's interesting. Dave Barton carries around a little textbook from the 1750s, I think it is, that fourth grade classroom book, and it asks questions like: a farmer has 60 animals. He has twice as many chickens as he has cows, and 5 times as many cows as he has horses. How many does he have of each? Which is basic algebra in the 4th grade. Mm-hmm. We have a large number of kids graduating that can't read.
Yeah, right. There you go. Alison and I were also talking about the fact that they don't learn American history anymore in our American schools, and that's got to change. Got to change.
Absolutely.
And then, Norm, I know you had the numbers. I don't know about the math, how our math scores are going down. Like you had a percentage of, where America is at with their students academically in math.
Well, Michigan is 40th in quality overall in the country. In America, although it's the top spending in the world, is only 34th in quality in the world. Nationally, we're spending almost $15,000 a student, where Singapore turns out the second best students in the world at $750 a year. So we're throwing money at this sacred cow, and it can never be enough. And only if we get another $250 million, million, we'll get quality, we'll get better. But we don't, and we will identify at CPAC exactly who the problem is. It's this education establishment that is there to perpetuate itself, not to teach the kids.
Norm, I want you to give out the website where people can find the link to get tickets to join this event next weekend. That's in Holt, Michigan, which is just outside Lansing, and it's going to be on the 26th and the 27th of February. That's Friday and Saturday, Friday night, Saturday all day. What is the website, Norm?
LaborFreedom.com.
LaborFreedom.com. That's LaborFreedom.com.
We're also on Eventbrite.
Okay.
And we're on Facebook. Michigan Conservative Political Action Conference, or MiCPAC, MiCPAC, Michigan Conservative Political Action Conference. So we do this every year, as you know, and this year it's unique because of the fact that we're dealing with this revival, and we're dealing with the next phase of the Education Task Force, which is really going to be huge. I mean, we have a report from Phase 3 that has the return on investment on education, which spells out the economic difficulties and the quality difficulties we're having with schools, and we're going to expose that as we prepare for the next phase, which will look at all of the bills that are impediment to good quality education in Michigan, all the laws, and we'll deal with the teacher certification problems and school certification problems and so on, and with the establishment. So it's going to be exciting. We also have some representatives from some of the presidential candidates.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about, being as we are on the day of the South Carolina primary. I thought we should get into presidential politics a little bit. Which candidates do you have representatives coming to the Michigan CPAC conference?
Ted Cruz and Dr. Ben Carson, for sure. We think Donald Trump, but we're not positive. I don't think he'll be there personally, but we've been told to expect a representative from him.